Virginia are voting for more than just governors Tuesday. In Virginia, the offices of Attorney General and Lieutenant Governor are both up for grabs. For the Lieutenant Governor, Republican State Legislator Winsome Sears and Democrat State Legislator Hala Ayala are facing off to become the first female to hold that office in Virginia history. In the Attorney General race, incumbent Democrat Mark Herring is working to fend off Republican State Legislator Jason Mears. Mears, an ex-prosecutor, has played up the fact his family fled Cuba in 1965 and his life, which he says is an American success story. Herring, meanwhile, has attacked Mears as out of step with left-leaning Virginia on issues like gun control and abortion. If GOP gubernatorial candidate Glenn Youngkin wins his race and has long enough coattails, he could potentially pull the underdog Republicans across the finish line. Virginia is also holding elections for local offices, the State House of Delegates. Democrat legislative majorities helped the state pass several major victories for liberals in recent years, including gun control laws. Republicans are looking to chip away at that advantage. New Jersey is also electing its lieutenant governor Tuesday, along with its state senate and general assembly. Incumbent Democrat Sheila Oliver is running for re-election as lieutenant governor against GOP challenger Diane Allen. Youngkin backers say their optimistic GOP candidate can pull off upset in blue Virginia. Leesburg, Va. On the eve of the Virginia gubernatorial election, supporters of Republican candidate Glenn Youngkin piled into the Loudoun Parents Matter rally at the Loudoun County Fairgrounds and told Fox News how they feel going into Election Day. Extremely confident, I am looking forward to tomorrow, and, a Fairfax County mother told Fox News. Loudoun County resident Steve Jones told Fox News, last year in our neighborhood we probably had 50% signs for Trump, 50% signs for Biden. This year we see very few McAuliffe signs and the Youngkin signs are everywhere. He continued, I mean they literally have got to be at least 5 to 1 and maybe even more. I see a lot more enthusiasm on the Republican side this time around. A lot more. Cheryl Onderchain, a mother of 3, told Fox News, you've got people here of all ages. A lot of parents for Youngkin signs. Parents are fired up, she continued. Glenn's our candidate. He's going to be our next governor. Election day forecast, drizzly, overcast day for Virginia, New Jersey voters. With a wet and chilly forecast, voters in New Jersey and Virginia might consider bringing a rain jacket in case they have to wait in line to cast their ballots in the state's major gubernatorial elections Tuesday. In Virginia, on and off showers are expected for much of the state into the afternoon. In Alexandria, Va. Rain should continue for much of the morning with a high of 52 degrees at 10 a.m. According to Fox Weather, the rain should taper off in the late afternoon. Farther south in Roanoke, Va. The rain should clear out by the early afternoon as temperatures hover in the low 50s, per Fox Weather. Voters in Camden, NJ, can expect similar conditions, with temperatures in the low 50 seconds and rain until about 3 p.m. farther north in Newark, NJ. Rain is not expected, though it will remain overcast into the early evening. According to Fox Weather, Virginia governor's race preview, the key counties to look for on Election Day. Virginia was once a breeding ground for presidents. From George Washington to Woodrow Wilson, the Old Dominion has sent 8 men to the White House, more than any other state in the country. Today, Virginia is better known for the damage it can do to a presidency. With one exception, the state has chosen a governor from the opposite party of the current president at every gubernatorial election in the last 40 years. At best, a loss in Virginia generates a bad news cycle and anxiety about midterms for those in the Oval Office. At worst, it is a sign that the president's days in power are numbered. Statistics like these and a late polling surge should give Republican challenger Glenn Youngkin some confidence going into election night. But the one exception mentioned above is Democrat Terry McAuliffe, who won his first term as governor in 2013. Following former President Obama's second victory in 2012, McAuliffe, now seeking his second term, entered the race as favorite in a state that has leaned blue during the Trump era and has enjoyed the consistent support of the Democratic machine. Even so, he leaves the trail lagging in the latest Fox News poll and therefore more uncertain than ever about his political future. The results in a handful of key counties will decide the fate of the two candidates. Stakes high for Biden presidency and Virginia gubernatorial election. President Biden and Democrats in general will be watching the Virginia election returns closely Tuesday to see if Republican Glenn Youngkin can pull off a shock win over Democrat Terry McAuliffe. Amid tanking poll numbers for Biden and worries among Democrats that they won't be able to hang on to their narrow congressional majorities in 2022, a McAuliffe loss could send the party's political apparatus into panic mode. For some, the panic already has started. The Virginia gubernatorial election is way too close for comfort, but it hasn't yet sparked the kind of mass Democratic panic and flurry of organizing that we saw in the California recall election last month. The What a Day email newsletter by the progressive crooked media said last month, consider this a friendly invitation to commence your productive freakout. One of the things Democrats are concerned may drive voters to Youngkin is their failure to pass a bipartisan infrastructure bill. Progressives in Congress stymied efforts by House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, McAuliffe and Biden both in September and October to pass the bill. They were demanding more work on Democrats' massive reconciliation spending bill first. Congressional Democrats are back this week trying to come to a deal both bills. But if McAuliffe loses, some have speculated it would make it less likely moderates will vote for reconciliation. A tough vote that would tie them to an unpopular president. For Republicans, meanwhile, a Youngkin win could provide a blueprint for how they can take back the House and Senate in 2022. The GOP nominee focused on schools and social issues in an effort to get parents behind his campaign and make inroads with crucial suburban voters. Youngkin also walked a tightrope when it comes to former President Donald Trump, discreetly distancing himself from that brand of politics while trying to avoid directly rebuking the former president or his false election conspiracy theories. Trump's continued presence as the leader of the GOP puts Republicans in moderate districts in a tough spot. But if that strategy can work for Youngkin in Virginia, it could work in a lot of other places too. A defeat for Democrats in Virginia could also spur more retirements among Democrat congressional incumbents, cause vulnerable Democrats to potentially try to distance themselves from Biden and force the party to reassess whether it wants to focus so much on Trump going forward. Other key races to watch Tuesday: House special elections, Minneapolis and NYC mayoral races, Virginia's deadlocked gubernatorial battle between former Democratic Gov. Terry McAuliffe and Republican nominee Glenn Youngkin is firmly in the national spotlight. The Commonwealth, a one-time general election battle.
Hey guys, this is Tommy with Tommy Nation Politics. How's everyone doing today? Tommy Nation Politics. Hey guys, this is Tommy with Tommy Nation Politics. What a long day we had yesterday. We had a lot of races that were too close to call when the election polls closed, but we're calling them now officially for decision 2021. This was the little midterm bump. 2022 is going to be an even bigger uptick of races that are going to be up for grabs in the battleground key states, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Florida. The gubernatorial races were, let's just say they were very exciting. They were very exciting in Virginia and, of course, Texas, where I live. We're going to be getting into that stuff. But let's just have a whole all-around news day, guys, when we're talking about the elections and we're talking about the influence of the executive. We got to talk about, of course, President Joseph Elizabeth Biden. He's a key. The minority leader in the House of Representatives, Kevin McCarthy, he famously said yesterday that even the Democratic Party is running against Biden. It's kind of true. People were distancing themselves. 538 Nate Silver projected a good night for the Republicans. And it's proven to be a good night for the Republicans. They've crept ever so much more to power. They got their pet project China. They've got their talking points. They've got the rotating villain in the White House. This is a time to be free-thinking, innovative, and open-minded, guys, because we're about to experience some fucking political games, some fucking shenanigans, guys.
First of all, I want to thank you all for coming, and I've heard a lot of the mischaracterizations of my position since the President met with the House Democrats last Thursday, and I would like to make an attempt to clear up any confusion about where I stand on the legislation that's working its way through Congress. In all my years of public service, and I've been around for a long time, I've never seen anything like this. The President of the United States has addressed the House Democratic Caucus twice recently. to urge action on the bipartisan infrastructure bill, which sometimes we refer to as the BIF bill. Last week, Speaker Pelosi urged the importance of voting and passing the BIF bill before the President took the world stage overseas, and still no action. In my view, this is not how the United States Congress should operate, or in my view, has operated in the past. The political games have to stop. Twice now, the House has balked at the opportunity to send the BIF legislation to the President. As you've heard, there are some House Democrats who say they can't support this infrastructure package until they get my commitment on the reconciliation legislation. It is time to vote on the BIF bill, up or down, and then go home and explain to your constituents the decision you made. And I've always said, if I can't go home and explain it, I can't vote for it, and if I can, I will. I've worked in good faith for the past 3 months, with President Biden, Leader Schumer, Speaker Pelosi, and my colleagues on the reconciliation bill, and I will continue to do so. For the sake of the country, I urge the House to vote and pass the bipartisan infrastructure bill. Holding this bill hostage is not going to work in getting my support for the reconciliation bill. Throughout the last 3 months, I've been straightforward about my concerns that I will not support a reconciliation package that expands social programs and irresponsibly adds to our $29 trillion in national debt that no one seems to really care about or even talk about. Nor will I support a package that risks hurting American families suffering from historic inflation. Simply put, I will not support a bill that is this consequential without thoroughly understanding the impact that it'll have on our national debt, our economy, and most importantly, all of our American people. Every elected representative needs to know what they are voting for and the impact it has, not only on their constituents, but the entire country. That is why we must allow time for complete transparency and analysis on the impact of changes to our tax code and energy and climate policies to ensure that our country is well positioned to remain the superpower of the world, while we inspire the rest of the world towards a cleaner environment. And this all can be done. I, for one, won't support a multi-trillion-dollar bill without greater clarity about why Congress chooses to ignore the serious effects of inflation and debt that have on our economy and existing government programs. For example, how can I in good conscience vote for a bill that proposes massive expansion of social programs when vital programs like Social Security and Medicare face insolvency and benefits could start being reduced as soon as 2026 in Medicare and 2033 in Social Security? How does that make sense? And I don't think it does. Meanwhile, elected leaders continue to ignore exploding inflation, that our national debt continues to grow, and interest payments on the debt will start to rapidly increase when the Fed has to start raising interest rates to try to slow down this runaway inflation. With the factors in mind, and all of these factors that we've spoken about, I've worked in good faith for months with all of my colleagues to find the middle ground
good faith, guys.
on a fiscally,
it's a moderate ground, it's a middle ground.
I repeat that, a fiscally responsible piece of legislation
mild,
that fixes
like
the flaws
guacamole.
of the 2017 Trump tax bill that I thought was weighted far, far too far for the high-end earners and the needs of the American families and children. However, as more of the real details outlined in the basic framework are released, what I see are shell games, budget gimmicks that make the real cost of the so-called $1.75 trillion bill estimated to be almost twice that amount if the full time is run out, if you extended it permanently, and that we haven't even spoken about. This is a recipe for economic crisis. None of us should ever misrepresent people what the real cost of legislation is. While I've worked hard to find a path to compromise, it's obvious compromise is not good enough for a lot of my colleagues in Congress. It's all or nothing, and their position doesn't seem to change unless we agree to everything. Enough is enough. It's time our elected leaders in Washington, all of us, stop playing games with the needs of the American people and holding a critical infrastructure bill hostage. While there's opportunity in the reconciliation bill that we can all agree on, and we've been talking about this for months. Again, to be clear, I will not support the reconciliation legislation without knowing how the bill will impact our debt and our economy and our country. And we won't know that until we work through the text. For the sake of our country, I am urging all of my colleagues in the House to vote and pass the bipartisan infrastructure bill. It's bipartisan, 69 votes. We worked on that for many, many months. As I've said before, holding that bill hostage is not going to work to get my support of what you want. It's what we should all agree on and work through the process. I'm open to supporting a final bill that helps move our country forward, But I'm equally open to voting against a bill that hurts our country. And I've been very clear about that also. And most importantly, hurts every American. Let's work together, and I mean that. Let's all work together on getting a sensible reconciliation package.
Let's work together, guys. Get a sensible reconciliation package, one that funnels more wealth to the 1%, and all or nothing. It's almost like the Democrats were voted in for a mandate of progressive change, right? And he's standing in the way of that with Sinema because their donors are the pharmaceutical industry, banks and the Wall Street. And it just, I mean, you already won on the corporate tax rate. You already got Biden to just back off of that. So what is all or nothing with anybody else but you, Manchin? You and Sinema. You guys seem to want all or nothing. Because the other Democrats are supposedly doing the will of the American people. You go on all the polls like Bernie Sanders said. Every single poll, even in your state, Mr. Manchin, that human infrastructure bill would mean a lot to these the poor people. But you suck dry with your public servancy. It would really help them. It would really help them with the rent crisis that's going on, and it would really help them with the rising inflation. Now, I know you argue that it's going to actually cost more on the debt, but remember what you just brought up, Mr. Manchin. The Trump tax cuts raised the income inequality gap and tripled the deficit for 2 consecutive years while Trump was president. So I don't understand what you're talking about, Mr. Manchin. So that was fine, but human infrastructure is not fine. Hey, good morning, Miguel. How's it going, man? Welcome to Tom and Isha Politics. We're giving a little rundown of the irony of what was the political election for 2021. This was very interesting. It's a very interesting fucking election, guys. We had the Republicans making out good. Even Nate Silver said on his podcast, check that out on iTunes. Barack Obama had some great advice for all of us. He said, make sure that you vote for Democrats, even if they don't keep their promises, because they're just better. I don't know. He didn't really give a reason, but he was looking a lot on his legacy today. And then yesterday, he was really wanting to clench his legacy. And I'm about to explain after I give you this clip of Barack Obama, guys, that this really is Barack Obama's third term in office. You have all of the senators and Congress people with stocks in Pfizer and Moderna, the pharmaceutical industry. Bank of America is a top stock, and Wall Street hedge fund owners are kings of New York. So this is just like 2008, guys, right before the recession happened. This is just right before we were going to bail out Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. This is exactly what was happening, guys. Pay close attention to this. But Barack Obama, he doesn't look backwards. He looks forward, right? That's what he said about the people that commit torture. Oh, we don't look backwards. We look forward. So we're not going to prosecute any people that tortured people. We tortured some folks. Barack Obama is so good we tortured some folks. You keep your doctor. Now he's talking about his legacy. Check it out.
One of the things that makes history real for people is when they can see objects that were part of that history, right?
Look at that baby face.
I can't believe that anybody would entrust somebody that young with anything, much less a seat in the U.S. Senate. When I look at this young man in the picture, I think I'm glad that he was idealistic enough to think that he could actually pull it off.
From the Senate to the White House and the journey along the way, former President Barack Obama cementing his legacy with the groundbreaking of his presidential center.
Just talk about the importance of having your center here, not just in Chicago, but the south side of Chicago.
Well, we are sitting in the South Shore Cultural Center where Michelle and I had our reception after our wedding almost 30 years ago. My announcement for my first political office was right down the street. You've got the hospital where my daughters were born. Just about everything that's important to me in my life started here.
The center, a blueprint for success. The vision crafted alongside the former First Lady. It's the Obamas' ambitious promise to uplift their South Side community.
The idea was to build a campus where we could not only talk about my presidency, but more importantly, create a living, breathing institution that was helping to train and promote and encourage young leaders and citizens to get involved, be active, and be effective change agents in the world.
By his side during his time in office, Joe Biden, who's now facing multiple challenges in his first year, an ongoing pandemic, a crisis at the border, and a battle over his infrastructure proposal.
This is a really important moment in his administration, needing to pass comprehensive legislation. How do you think he is handling this particular moment?
The Build Back America program is something that America desperately needs. It's got a headline price tag of $3.5 trillion, but that's not a single year. This is spread out over a number of years, and most importantly, it's paid for by asking the wealthiest of Americans to pay a few percentage points more in taxes in order to make sure that we have a economy that's fair for everybody. So,
but should they be concerned that that's how they're going to have to pay for it?
They can afford it. We can afford it. I put myself in this category now. I think anybody who pretends that it's a hardship for billionaires to pay a little bit more in taxes so that a single mom gets child care support, or so that we can make sure that our communities aren't inundated by wildfires and floods, and we're doing something about climate change for the next generation, that's an argument that is unsustainable.
The other big story, the images coming out from the border in Texas with the Haitian immigrants. In 2010, when they had that devastating earthquake, your administration allowed Haitians under a special temporary legal status here in the U.S. But now we're seeing, under the current administration, sending them back to an island in crisis. How do you square what we're seeing right now?
Immigration is tough. It always has been, because on the one hand, I think we are naturally a people that wants to help others. At the same time, we're a nation state. We have borders. The idea that we can just have open borders is something that I think, as a practical matter, is unsustainable. The way we solve this.
Game over.
Game over.
The way we solve this problem is they're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, they're rapists. Some are good people. Don't come. Do not come. Build Back Better. It's something that every American desperately needs, because what's in the bill of the infrastructure bill, we'll never know. The bill that Nancy Pelosi was trying to pass, there ain't gonna be no bill if they don't pass the reconciliation. Now she's changed her tune. But Nancy Pelosi is not the only person who's changed her tune, guys. Nancy Pelosi is not the only motherfucker who's changed their tune. Over his first 9 months in office, President Biden has lost among Americans of all sorts. Men and women, black voters, white voters, baby boomers, Zoomers, millennials, even Democrats at large are more disenchanted that Kevin McCarthy, like I said that the Democratic Party was running against him. Yes, it's true. I mean, nothing has fundamentally changed, guys. Let's just not get it twisted. Two groups with whom Biden lost support mostly was Hispanics and independents. Independents have soured on Biden. This is from 538 Nate Silver. And they're moving further away from the Democratic Party, shifting somewhat toward the Trump and GOP, which is hilarious because, how Trump came out of office, the most unpopular president we've ever had. Trump was the most unpopular when he left office than we've ever had. Now Joe Biden is matching his approval rating 9 months in. How ironic is that, guys? So then we have these gubernatorial races. Then we have Young Cliff winning in Virginia. We have some Senate seats in Ohio. Legislatures, the local legislatures, Democrats picked up in the big cities, but for the most part, the gubernatorial races went to the Republicans. And this is only a harbinger, I think, of what's really going to happen in 2022, guys. Because this madness and this stubbornness and this spinelessness is not going to stop. It's not going to stop. In fact, my good friends Sagar and Crystal Ball, they were talking about how maybe not only is Joe Biden a joke, but maybe the Progressive Caucus is a joke as well. Democrat leaders are betting progressives will fold, guys, and I know it in my heart, that I know in my bones that they will. I know AOC doesn't have the fucking stomach for this shit. She really doesn't, guys. Just not get it twisted.
Self-dealing. But we wanted to start with reconciliation negotiations. As I just mentioned, yesterday, Senator Joe Manchin, who, Joe Biden had assured us was on board with this deal, that everybody aligned, all of these things, he decided to come out and give a press conference and basically pour cold water all over this entire deal. Let's take a listen.
With the factors in mind, and all of these factors that we've spoken about, I've worked in good faith for months with all of my colleagues to find a middle ground.
He's worked in such good faith.
And I report.
All right, we've already listened to this, guys.
Let's take a look at this tweet that has the details here from Pramila Jayapal. She is, of course, the chair of the Congressional Progressive Caucus. She signals that Manchin's comments will not impact progressives, that they still plan to vote for the infrastructure bill and the $1.75 trillion plan. She says, the president says he can get 51 votes for the bill. We are going to trust him. We're tired of continuing to wait for one or two people. Just so you know how perplexing it is that they suddenly folded and changed position, because their position had always been, we got to actually get a vote from the Senate on the reconciliation bill before we move on the infrastructure package. Jake Sherman, who's a congressional watcher, he talks about how bizarre it is that the progressives just folded here. So now Jayapal is going to send the infrastructure bill to Biden's desk without assurances on the Build Back Better plan. Progressives are in a much worse spot than they were last week. Manchin is saying he'd be fine voting against Build Back Better. What a bizarre turn. So that's kind of where we are this morning, Sagar.
It's pretty amazing, because whenever I saw that, I almost couldn't believe it. I mean, for months and months, and even last week, the House essentially did not have a vote on the infrastructure bill because the progressives said that they wouldn't vote for it.
Yeah.
And then he came out to give a speech specifically where he says, well, hold on a second. And actually, the New York Times did a pretty decent job of writing this up. Let's put that tear sheet up there on the screen. Headline is, Manchin raises doubts on safety net bill, complicating path to a quick vote. And now, what's really important in that Manchin tear sheet here is that he has gone out and said that he wants a CBO score. He wants like an independent evaluation of the actual effects of the bill, all kinds of different tactics and things which are designed in order to significantly delay one eventual passage. And also, people should remember, we still have to deal with reconciliation itself. And I want to make sure people can understand reconciliation, the way that it has to move through the United States Senate, means that there's all this arcane Senate procedure that comes with the passage of such a bill. You have to have something called a voto-rama, where people are allowed to add amendments to something, which means that can take 24 hours or so. You have to have different committees move each individual piece of the legislation, part of the legislation, out of their committee, all of which a Republican can object to, and make it take even longer. So we could be looking at a 2 to 3 to even possibly a month or more timeline on the bill itself, given Manchin's objections. But at the same time, he's demanding the vote right now on infrastructure. And of course, the progressives knew this, and they said, well, we're going to make them wait until they pass both bills. But effectively, they have given up all leverage. What stops Joe Manchin from saying, actually, yeah, I'm not going to vote for this thing now that we've gone ahead and passed my priority? But Crystal, it's not just them. Remember, we have Gottheimer and many other, quote unquote moderates within the House. They have never wanted to vote for the Build Back Better bill. They have been pretty consistent and open that they only wanted one of the bills, which is why they wanted that one to move forward.
A bipartisan bill, guys. A bipartisan bill. The bipartisan bill. The one that Nancy Pelosi said there ain't going to be a bill. Turns out that's the bill that these two parties are going to try to fucking stick to Joe Biden, because he hasn't signed a single bill since the COVID relief bill. He hasn't, guys. He's only signed executive orders. Joe Biden is itching to sign a real fucking bill. He hasn't signed one since the COVID relief bill. So, let me get this straight, guys. Jayapal literally says on a tweet, I'm going to trust the president, even though the president's been fucking you and fucking us, progressives, since the beginning of his fucking presidency. Senate parliamentarian? Y'all don't remember the minimum wage? Y'all don't remember the fucking Senate parliamentarian? And you're going to trust the president? The same president who literally said he had to deal with the Republicans before he even met with the Progressive Caucus. You're going to trust this guy and put whatever you think you're going to put on his desk to sign. I already know what Joe Biden's going to say. Look fat. You should have gone to Iowa, bro. The whole reason Joe Biden's the president is because he is the king knife backer. He is the king backstabber. The strong survive in this politics game, and only the strongest are the most insidious, disgusting, least principled people. Nancy Pelosi, Joe Biden, Chuck Schumer, Mitch McConnell, they are... Why have they survived so long, progressives? It's not because they're going to trust the president. Let's just put it that way. I mean, I don't know what is more worse. Watching Barack Obama talk about how he's going to make change agents, aka fucking servants of the banks, probably. What does that even mean, Barack? When were you a change agent? What change did you give? Meanwhile, his protege, Joe Biden, who said he was going to expand Medicare, expand Obamacare, right? That's what he said in his campaign. Oh, we're going to give health care to the children. Where is it, Joe? You got nothing, bro. Nothing has fundamentally changed, bro. I want to get fucking Barack Obama on a hot mic. I want to know exactly what he really thinks of Joe Biden and his fucking doddering around. Because even at this time, guys, remember, even at this time, he had gotten the Affordable Care Act into the circle of getting to be signed. Joe Biden has not gotten any legislation. His economic plan, his economic agenda is faltering, and his approval rating is lower than any president in the last 50 years. His influence is shot. It's crusty, just like his fucking scalp. So, and then meanwhile, the Progressive Caucus is going to trust the president. Like the president's not going to sell you out for a fucking donut and some fucking coffee. It's fucking ridiculous. Even Sagar, who's not even a progressive, fucking knows this shit.
So I think it very much looks like a situation where, that infrastructure bill could pass. Oh, and then all of a sudden, CBO scores something this way, which, by the way, has happened so many times here in Washington. Back with the tax cuts bill, where they had to, actually the CBO is fake during the Trump years, the Bush tax cuts. I mean, this has happened over and over again. I know it can sound a bit arcane, but really what it means is that, in effect, Manchin is demanding things which are going to, even if he does vote for it, it's going to take a long time. The progressives said, okay, fine, though, because of reasons, we will go and vote for the infrastructure bill, which...
So why are we so accommodating, guys? Why are we so fucking accommodating? Okay, we'll just trust the president. Okay, whatever Manchin wants. How about where's there the leverage? If we want to get progressive things done, Martin Luther King said, the tranquilizing drug of gradualism is the enemy, and time is the enemy of change. He was saying that right after he said that this was all fucking corporate socialism. It was socialism for the rich. You fast forward fucking to 2021, guys, and we're still fucking accommodating the moderates who aren't moderate at all. They're puppets of the rich. And you want to trust the president of the United States, who is the king puppet. A skull is breaking, guys. And this is why the Republicans had a good night last night, guys. This is a harbinger. And I want to warn you guys. If we continue to be such meandering, spineless cowards, we're going to get more Donald Trump, Joe Biden, and moderates like Joe Manchin. The rotating villain I mean, the villains will never end, guys. It's like a bully who picks on the kid who doesn't stand up for himself. You realize that, right? What happens when you punch the bully in the nose? He leaves you alone. Will these progressives have what it takes to punch the bully in the nose? I don't think so. And neither does Nancy Pelosi. Neither does Joe Manchin. So do you think Joe Biden does? So why would you trust that guy? He can smell your fucking weakness, bro. These are sharks. And we are inept. More inept than Joe Biden, it seems, on negotiating our fucking principled, valued agenda. This is a shot across the bow from domination politics, guys. We need to do something about this. We need to force the vote. Force the vote, guys. The House is voting on this bipartisan infrastructure bill soon. I have this estimation that it's going to end up like Barack Obama's infrastructure bill. He had passed one exactly the same way. Mitch McConnell, he voted for it too. It's a big club. We ain't in it. It's time we get in it. Or get out. What do you think, guys? Let's be free-thinking, innovative, open-minded. Or we can be fucking schmucks. I prefer to be free-thinking, innovative, and open-minded. I prefer to be what our namesake says, progressive. What would FDR think about this whole thing, bro? He would say, I welcome your hatred. I'm so glad he's not alive today to see this fucking Twitter storm of I'm going to wait for the president to fucking sign this shit without a majority, a filibuster-proof majority. It's fucking ridiculous, bro. The Democratic Party, bro. From Joe Biden not being able to get out of Afghanistan correctly and taking the military out, to the progressives trusting the most sharkiest corporate puppet of all time. I don't understand how you guys even won your fucking races. I really don't. I literally could do a better job. But I guess that's what happens with super PACs. In any case, guys, I'm going to bring you more election results as they come in. I don't want to... There's a few gubernatorial races that I don't want to talk about yet because, I mean, they're still kind of up in the air. It was very close races. So that means y'all are all still voting for Democrats and Republicans. Y'all are stupid, but I have to hand it to you. You're very dedicated.